Hey guys, today we're looking at the Cromwell Mk.IV in 176 by Airfix. Now this is one of the starter kits. As you can see there, it has the few pots of paint, a tube of glue and a wee brush as well there, just to get you, as the name suggests, started. I don't really mind these starter kits. I mean, I don't use the those particular pots of paint. The brushes are handy, I suppose, from a, they're not great brushes, but they'll do. Glue, always handy to have a little bit of glue knocking around. The paints I tend to just keep in a bag because they are water-based paints, and as a result they can be handy for either doing models, of course, but I generally use them for little bits of terrain and things like that. I can paint up some stuff with some of the colours they provide, because I normally use the enamels. I just find them, for my own purposes, I find them better. So let's have a look at the box. Nice piece of artwork there. Not sure who's doing the art on this. It says Aletta or something down here. I'm not sure. I can't really make out what that is. Looks Italian or something, but I don't know. That's whoever that is anyway. Well done. So it's a nice little piece of artwork. Shows a Cromwell in action there in what looks like presumably a French town, probably Villers-Bocage or somewhere similar. And it's quite a nice box there. It shows the finished model here with some deep weighting equipment, which we'll get into a little bit later on in the instructions and that. But the box itself, again, fairly basic Airfix scenario here. Nice little colour chart at the back of it there, just to, or painting guide, should I say, just to let you know what's going on there. So 159 is the main colour in the Humbrol range there. 53, 33 and 29 as well, and it shows you it's depicted there with the deep weighting and without the deep weighting equipment here. You have a kind of a hedge cutter here, this section here as well, which is, both of those scenarios are optional, of course. So basically the story behind this particular kit is that it's actually belonged to my son. He is 8 years of age today. So he's at his mother's house at the moment, but I have been instructed to do a video and to commence the build, which he will assist me in completing when he returns at 7 o'clock this evening. So anyway, but the Cromwell itself was produced in response for a requirement for more heavily armed and armoured tanks to replace the Crusader. The Force Cromwells, of course, making an appearance in about 1943, but they were equipped with a 6-pounder gun. Now it was quickly realised that this was going to be inadequate, and those tanks were soon being equipped with a heavier gun, that being the 75mm gun. They also have one coaxial 7.62 or probably 303 machine gun, and one in the bow as well. Now most units that would have been in British Army Service would have been equipped with M4 Shermans, but the Cromwell did see a good bit of action, in fairness to it, from Villers-Bocage and other places like that, and soldiered on to the end of the war. The Comet, of course, came along and would replace that eventually, really, with the 17-pounder in it. But anyway, that is the brief history lesson as usual. Let's have a look at the instructions. I just moved this out of the way momentarily, and we'll get the instructions in here. So, kind of modern Airfix instruction scenario here, the usual indicators. So, section 1 is your basic hull formation there, 1, 2 and 3. And here we have something different and interesting, a little bit of progress from an Airfix perspective perhaps. So you can see what you have is your lower hull section here completed from the previous 2 steps, and then you will put on your wheels, and over that this one piece, which I'll show you momentarily, one piece track section, pre-molded, etc., slots on over that. So that's going to be interesting. I have never done a track system in that exact scenario previously, so we will see what happens with that. So you, as you see, fold on over the wheels. Now, then you go to the other side as well, of course, and let's bring this in here. So section 5, there's the upper hull area goes on. Pull out a corner here. Some rear bits and pieces, just a smaller detailing. Okay, lovely. And down we go. And set 12, there's some mud guards. Then you have the option of putting on the hedge cutter if you so wish. Okay. So there's a lot more steps in this than there usually is on an Airfix build. So there's a little bit more effort gone into this particular kit, which is quite nice to see. If they could do the same now with things like the Tiger 1 and some stuff like that, that'd be great. But So coming down along there, you have the armour sections go onto the turret. I've never seen that done before in an Airfix kit, so fair enough. Hatch here, he has decided he wants a commander sticking out of the hatch, so I have to deal with that for him. And there we go. I don't know what I'm going to do for you for a commander. Probably the standard matchbox lad will get lumped in there again. So again, here you have the deep wading section here if you want to put that on. This is the area that would protect the turret hatches, and of course the engine air intake here. So that's what that will look like once that is completed. And then on the back of it there, just some more safety information about why you shouldn't eat your tank and so on and so forth, or shove it up your nose or whatever it is that kids do. Right, so that's the instructions. Let's put them out of the way. Now, let's have a look at the sprues. Okay, first sprue here. Again, I always say that it's quite straightforward. It really does look nice and crisp, to be fair. No flash whatsoever that I can actually see. Nice tooling. All the pieces look relatively accessible as regards where the injection molding marks will go in. So from that scenario, I'm thinking there mightn't be much to be worried about with this. Now, of course, I have been the victim of my own big mouth upon occasion when I've said that, looking at kits like this, and then discovered that, oh, it is difficult and I've made a mistake, and you know, it all goes to bits. But so hopefully this won't be one of those scenarios, particularly because it's a birthday build for the boy. Here's the second sprue. Again, these are the wheels. This is just the back of the sprue there, sprockets, drive wheels, etc. Upper hull section. Better look at it from this side here. Nice detail, I have to say, it really is nice. The only time I've ever done a Cromwell before is the Revell Cromwell. That was, oh god, many years ago. In fact, it might even be that I just ever came out. I'm thinking sort of late 90s, early 2000s, thereabouts. I have 3 of them for wargaming purposes. They're in 172, and this is 176 marked on the box. So I will, once this is complete, take those guys out of the attic and we'll have a little look at them. Some nice detail pieces there, actually. If we could just get the old camera, yeah, there you go. So there's the muzzle flash there, part 4, what's that called? Yeah, flash guard, whatever it is. There's a machine gun, and these are the aforementioned tracks. This is going to be the interesting part of this for me, to see how this scenario works out. I've never really had a major issue with the tracks on Airfix, to be fair. Their vinyl track systems have never given me much trouble. It has to be said. And what I do not like is finicky sprockets and suspension springs and things like that, or drive wheels that are held on with very flimsy pins and so on and so forth. But these look like they might be a nice new option. Also, of course, I hate the individual track length or track segment scenario. Just why not do this? This looks so much better. So we will see how that works out over the course of the next few hours when I get to tackle this before he comes back from his mother's. Detail on, if I could just get that to focus. No, it won't cooperate. Just saying that the detail on the actual track links itself isn't bad at all. Looks quite nice if this would just focus properly first, but it's not cooperating. Anyway, not to worry, you have to take my word for it, and I'm a fairly honest and decent chap, so I would like to think. So from that perspective, yeah, you can kind of see it there maybe a little bit. There we go. Fooled the camera into doing it for me. The one thing we didn't look at here was the decals. This is the decal sheet here. Alright, it's 7th Armoured markings. So there you go, Desert Rats, so on and so forth, and you have your Allied stars, always with the star or the circle to prevent the Americans shooting you up. So that's 5th Royal Horse Artillery, 7th Armoured Division, British Army, Europe, 44-45. That's what it says here. For both the version with and without the deep wading equipment. So that's it. I am going to crack on and get this prepped, and he'll be back in a couple of hours. So I'm going to see what I can do for this, or with this for him. And it'll be another little addition to his collection of tanks. Probably a bit battered and broken as usual, but at the end of the day, he's only 8 as of today. So yeah, we can't really fault the lad for that. So that's it. I'll jog on and be back in a moment with the second part of this video. So just press pause there and have a cup of coffee or a cup of tea for yourself, and I shall be back momentarily. Until then, be safe in your own kitchen. Now guys, we have returned at last with the completed model. As you can see there, it needs a little bit of work on the shading at the moment just to bring it down. I left it like that just to show you something to do with the decal fix which I used. We'll of course be putting a little bit of extra shading in this area here and around here. Once that particular kind of issue tones down a small little bit. So basically it's a Cromwell, Cromwell Mk.IV. It has the hedge cutter in the front here. We elected not to put in the crewman in the turret this time round. Just decided not to do it. And we didn't use the deep weighting equipment which comes with the kit, as you saw in the first half of the video. The tank itself, fairly, as I always say, straightforward. It's a good little kit. I can't really fault it bar one little issue I had, which is actually visible on this side here. If I just turn it over, perhaps it might be more visible. It's kind of hard to see, but the point I'm making is that the tank itself, when I was putting on the road wheels on this side, I applied the wheels as per instruction, pushed them into position as you do, and applied the track, and then went to put on the hull and these other pieces here and here, to find that the wheels hadn't gone in far enough. Each one went in the exact same distance onto the little support pin or peg, whatever you want to call it, but unfortunately you probably want to make sure, do a little test fit first, that they go in the requisite distance, and that you don't have this scenario here where you have a little bit of play. It's only a couple of millimeters, but it's the difference between right and wrong. It was okay on this side, but on this side it sticks out a little bit further, and probably most apparent here at this kind of track guard section here. I don't know if you can see it, but it's kind of sticking out a little bit, whereas this one over here does not. So from that perspective, a little bit odd, but that's what happened. At the end of the day, it's not a big deal. As I say, it's for the young lad for his collection, so we're not going to lose too much sleep over it, but it would have been nice if that didn't occur. Again, here the decal is pretty nice, a little bit rough around here because there's a lot of features on the turret, so I used a lot of decal fix to try and stick that particular decal down. A little bit of weathering now over that will probably bring it down a small bit more, make it look nicer. A little bit of staining from the decal fix here and here, that'll be dealt with as well in subsequent shadings. We put on the hedge cutter, left off the deep weighting equipment as I shown there, and that was basically it. It's a fairly straightforward little tank. Decals there again, they're quite nice actually, I have to say. I'm not sure if it comes up so well there on the old camera phone, but or phone camera, but it's nice enough. I'm going to put in some detail here with the shovel and bits and pieces later as well, and that's it really. It's a Cromwell. It's quite nice. Now the Airfix one is 176. That's just, make sure you know that, because if you are building these guys and you're using a 172 in conjunction with it, say for example this kind of unfinished what is that, Revel example, that particular one, you'll see, if I can just elevate slightly, is a little bigger, being 172, but I think you can, you know, if you're not too fussy, you get away with it. As I say, I already have several of the Revel ones here, so I won't be using the Airfix ones for my own purposes. But this, as I say, is for the young lad, so he's quite happy with it. As I say, top marks the Airfix for the new track system, which we looked at in the first half of the video and I mentioned earlier. Much easier than the Revel one, which was the individual track links. These tend to sometimes get a little bit damaged, particularly when you're wargaming with them rather than just using them as a model. So this one has seen a little bit of action, even though it was unfinished. I must have done that about 20 years ago. So it's still waiting to be sorted out, and it got used a few times before that even happened to it. But as you can see there, there was damage in the front, tracks had to be refixed, and they're never going right the second time. But that's the Rebel one. But as I say, that is the Airfix model, Cromwell Mk.IV. Very nice little features on the turret here, on the hull and the turret. Nice detail, and in fairness, I couldn't really fault it, bar that little issue with the road wheels. The one-piece track system, quite nice. Would still prefer if the road wheels and the tracks were moulded into one, like they do with Armour Fast or Plastic Soldier Company or some of those. You know, at this day and age, it's easy enough to do it from what I can see. I don't think you lose an awful lot of detail, to be fair. You know, we've seen some of the Plastic Soldier Company stuff, and some of those, they actually have nearly more detail in them than a lot of the kits. So from that perspective, I think this will be better, from my personal opinion anyway. But that's it, guys. That's the Cromwell in 176 by Airfix. As I said, this was a starter kit. As I say, I don't tend to use the paints and stuff like that, other than for maybe scenery. Always handy to have the cement. I'm using the brush as a little bit of a pointer here, so it does have practical applications. But a nice little kit. Couldn't really fault it that much, as I say. Just be careful with those wheels in case you run into a similar situation like I did. But other than that, a nice little addition to any collection. And if you're working in 176 primarily, it's nice to have a Cromwell as well available there, particularly with the deep wading equipment and the edge cutter in addition. So that's it, guys. We'll be back again with another video fairly soon. We've got a lot of kits. I'm just looking over at the table at the moment there. There's some Hasegawa. There's a new one that came out of a magazine, IBG, I think it is. There's some Armour Fast. There's a few bits and pieces to get through. So we will be getting a bit more content going in the next couple of weeks. So if you would like to subscribe, I'd greatly appreciate it. And we shall see you again soon. All the best, guys. Good luck for now.